Hello, everyone. First of all, this channel is proudly sponsored by the Era Kaiju Kickstarter, a tabletop RPG where you play as a kaiju defending its territory from other giant monsters. Please check out the links in the description and in the pinned comment. They will take you to the Kickstarter, to my actual play, my review of the core book, etc. So today, as always, I am your host, Abraham El Jaguar, and we have a special guest. We have Claude from the KeyToDarkness YouTube channel. Thank you for being here, Claude.
Thank you for having me. Hello, all you beautiful people, past, present, and future. I'm happy to be a part of this. Happy to just sit back, relax, have a good chit chat with not just you, but whoever else is going to be watching this in the future. So it's going to be an interesting conversation we're going to be having today.
Now, before we dive into the Dothack phenomena, let's talk about your how you started to play tabletop RPGs. How did you know about them? What was your first experience? All of that.
My first experience with tabletop RPG was, I think it was about 2016. One of my coworkers actually came to me. They were looking for a new player. I think the context was their last player just couldn't make it on time and weren't able to join the game, so they asked me. Having no experience in D&D whatsoever, I said, yes, let's do it. And I would say it was probably the best decision I've ever had, because I always like creating stories. I always like writing, creating characters and whatnot. And what better way to do it than with Dungeons and Dragons? And after playing a couple years with that group, sadly, COVID happened and I wasn't able to stay with that group. So I decided to be a Dungeon Master instead. And I would say, let's see, it's 4 years later. 4 years later, I've been mostly doing DM work. And I would say it's probably the most rewarding experience for me. I've gone through several different campaigns. I've done my own homebrew stuff, not official, but just kind of like for my own groups and everything. And it's just, I'm, I can't be any more thankful enough for having the, like Dungeons and Dragons as a base for all my creative works.
That sounds great. And what do you enjoy more, being a player or a dungeon master?
It's been years since I've been a player. At this point, I would say being a dungeon master, because I like the idea of just kind of like tweaking things. Like if I'm introducing a new story points, just kind of like pulling things from this, pulling things from that. I don't get too much time as a player, and technically as a DM, you are a player as well. You're playing as multiple characters, and I don't know. It's just kind of like they both have their ups and downs, I would say.
Now, when it comes to Dothack, tell us about you getting in touch with this huge phenomena that got so many people into the perhaps one of the earliest isekai storylines out there.
Yeah, I actually started it back in high school. A friend of mine actually gave me a copy of Dothack GU, and his actual introduction to me about the series was, oh, you're playing a guy playing a video game. And at first I would think, wait, that's kind of weird. I mean, you're not actually playing you're playing as someone playing the game. But then delving into the universe, like I kind of grew attached to the characters and everything. And even to this day, I still believe that Dothack GU has some of the best character development around. And while, at least before I got into the Dothack community, I've been on and off playing the series. It wasn't until I started up like doing Dothack videos that I delved deep into like the many mediums, the lore and everything. And there's just so much there that there's not a lot of people to know about. Like there's so many OVAs, there's even other games. And that's what I want to is these other properties.
Oh, it was very strange. It seems like we had some audio issues for a moment. I don't know exactly what it was. Could you repeat those last 10 seconds?
Sorry. I pretty much just said, especially getting into the Dothack community, I've learned essentially a lot about the series through that, and there's just so much material to work off of that I've actually gotten interested in, and just kind of like delving deep, creating theories, creating different types of even alternate stories, like of course not canon because reasons, but it's just like that's kind of how I got into this series, both through one of my friends in high school and then the Dothack community itself.
It's very interesting. I think you're the first person that I have spoken with that got introduced to Dothack through GU rather than the original four games. You have
Yeah.
played those, right?
I have played. I'm actually playing through the original quadrilogy on my stream. Before then, it's really hard to get a copy of IMOC. Like one, there's some of they're the older PS2 games, and right now I could be wrong, but the quadrilogy altogether is probably going for about $100 to $200. And as much as I like them, I don't really have that much money, or at least at the time, to actually go and buy all of those. So now that I do have copies of them, I'm able to just enjoy them, and especially since doing research for like my other videos, it is important for me to actually play through the game, so I go into the details of those characters that many people do know of. You know.
And what do you think makes Dothack, all of it, stand out from other sorts of, oh, I got trapped into this video game world sort of situation?
In terms of GU, because that's what I'm most familiar with, it has a more mature story to it. It is very anime, I would say. It has a lot of anime tropes and everything, but when it comes to the characterizations and the individual stories, it relates a lot to like the internet culture. As we see, you get characters like, you know, the regular players, you get the you know, the griefers, the PKs as they're called, you get like you get guilds and all of that, and it's just kind of like it's that individual aspect and how it really relates to internet culture, especially now, because the setting of GU is in 2007, and I would say even now it's very similar to what we experience online to an extent. Not necessarily all the sci-fi elements of it, but just kind of like the like what we experience through internet cultures, through MMOs, as it were.
I think that's one of the strengths of Dothack because it has branched out to so many things, to manga, light novels, video games, anime, but you can tell all sorts of stories through it. In my case, in my introduction, I actually got into Dothack before I played any MMORPG.
Mm-hmm.
Dothack was actually my introduction to MMORPGs, and that was for the it had its good side and its bad side. On the positive side, it painted this amazing world that, oh, and you interact with people and you
Mm-hmm.
play and you join for quests, but they also show you these characters that, as you have noticed, every single Dothack character, even the more detestable ones, they are pretty how would you say, likable in their personalities, or they have so much flavor to them, and they have their backstories and whatnot. So when I got from Dothack to the MMORPGs, and I met a bunch of randos, and I was, oh no, this is not like Dothack at all.
No, definitely not. Because I think if I recall, they wanted to have an online experience as a single player game. And I really do think that they accomplished that with both sets of games. More so with GU, because if I had to describe GU setting, it's kind of like I don't I actually don't know how to describe it. It feels more like an MMO. Like you go into the field, you see players either getting attacked by monsters or just hanging around by warp gates. You get to interact with just random people as well, and it's just kind of like it feels alive. It feels like there's actual players playing the game, and yeah, you could probably excuse a little bit of like GU's presentation because it is a PS2 game. It has some limitations you have to work around, but even back then you felt like you were playing an MMO. And for someone like me growing up who didn't really have that great of internet growing up, it was nice to have it, just to experience what it is to play an MMO, even if it's offline, you know?
And from what you have seen of the four original games and your experience with you, do you have like a preference? Perhaps you prefer GU or the four original games?
I would say in terms of its characters and gameplay, I would say probably Dothack GU. However, I do have a little bit of favoritism towards IMOC because that feels more like an MMO. Like it's very early MMO. Like you have like it's just like when you go into combat, it isn't just like, oh, you have to be, you know, up near them, but you have the numbers kind of like displaying above, whether you hit or miss, and it feels more like an MMO in that aspect. Whereas GU, you know when you hit, you know when you miss, and it's just it's not like a random number like it is in IMOC. So it's just like both have their merits. I would say I have no preference over one or the other. It's just more like they are one connected narrative, so to speak.
In my case, I feel a bit more biased towards the quadrilogy because when it comes to GU, I felt like so many things were focused on Haseo, on the main character. Like it was his story, everything. He feels like the vortex of everything. And when it comes to the quadrilogy, I felt like it was all part of a larger world, even though Kite had the bracelets and you had Black Rose. Everybody felt like incredibly like they played their part almost equally. But in GU, it always felt like Haseo was such a chosen one. Like, you, Haseo, it's all about you. Did you ever get that perception, or was it different for you?
To an extent, yes. Haseo is, in fact, the main character. That is his story. And without going into too much spoilers, he is a returning character to the franchise, which makes sense. Like, if in a story perspective, you want to tell, like, what happened to this character after, like, the previous story, right? Even though, like, as a new character coming in, you would not know about it. And I think that's actually to its benefit in terms of GU's story, because yeah, it is Haseo's story, but the other character stories like Adelaide, like Pai, Yada, Ovan, like their individual stories are just as compelling, some more than others. In fact, I personally have my favorite story is involving the side character named Atali, who I mean, I don't know what I could say without spoiling it. I want you guys to experience it, but she is probably one of the better written characters. In fact, one of my friends who also streams with me, she has grown an attachment to Adelaide because I introduced her to GU. And like you can tell, like when a character is written good, when someone who has never played a game or never played watched any of the series has grown attached to this one character, you know?
Yes, just a warning to everyone watching. Let's say that this video has light spoilers.
Yes,
Spoilers.
like I said, I didn't want to say much just in case people have not played it. So I will say that I may say things that involve the story and characters. I'll try to keep it to a minimum as best I can. My one thing is, if you have an opportunity to play GU, play GU. It's all time going on sale for like $5 or something like that. You can't go wrong with that.
I think that could be a potential strength of GU over the quadrilogy. Some could see it as a weakness, but the character development is more noticeable.
Yeah.
In the case of the quadrilogy, it felt like you have a bunch of archetypes. That is, characters that have fully developed to be who they are, but they stay that way. If you love them or you hate them, they remain at that. But like you mentioned, Atali, without spoiling things, you can see her growth from having somewhat of a weak personality, and through her interactions with Haseo, she becomes stronger, assertive, and it really puts the force of her personality to full display at the very end of the series.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like they not even just talking about Adley. I think a lot of the characters within GU got a massive not necessarily improvement, because every character in the series has their own merits. If I had to describe IMOX characters, it feels like early 2000s cartoon to an extent. Yes, it does have some mature themes, but it really doesn't delve deep and like that deep into kind of like the themes and topics. Whereas GU, I'm not sure if IMOC is rated T for teen. It could be, but I feel like with GU, the themes of growing up, the themes of, bettering yourself and bettering, like, for the sake of the people around you, it's a more adult story. And I'm not necessarily saying like inappropriate things. I'm talking like actual adult themes that we all experience growing up,
Yes, I think that we were to compare Haseo and Kite. The Kite always felt like, for a 14-year-old guy, I thought, well, at my age, I admire Kite so much. I don't think I will be able to do the things that he did at that time. He has some super heroic moments in terms of decision making and the bravery that he displays. And I think that's why some people could connect better with Haseo, especially if you take into consideration who he was before that.
Yeah.
You can see the transformation. Although that certainly felt a bit annoying to me, that I felt like the creator, like he had a lot of favoritism. If you see the early interviews, he was talking about
Oh yeah.
Haseo before he was Haseo, and he was like, my favorite character is this one, and I
Oh
really
yeah.
want him to. And then he focused completely on that one,
Mhm.
and I felt it feels a bit like the self-insert of the designer or something. Even though you have Piroshi, Piroshi-san, but
Pharaoh's the third. Yes.
uh, it always felt like a part of Haseo was like somewhat of a self-insert of the designer. What do you think about that?
I don't know about self-insert, and I spoke earlier about him being a returning character, and I'm going a little bit of a spoiler into his past. He was actually part of Dothack Sign as the player Sora. And going through those events, something happened to him that caused him to forget all those events of Sign. So when they brought him back over here, they wanted to continue his story, like in a fresh perspective, which I can't really say anything about self-insert because I don't know much about the actual creator behind it. But seeing Haseo's story go from this arrogant teenager to this absolute unit of a man. You're just kind of like caring for his friends, making sure that things get solved. Like he is very brave in the sense like he's willing to put himself out there in order to help his friends. Like again, it's very anime, but it's also you see that transformation over the 3 games. Whereas Kite is a 14-year-old kid. He's never played a video game in his life, and throughout the events of IMOC, this is setting a bad example of what video games are.
Yeah, it could be considered like a coming of age story
Yeah.
because you can see Haseo very edgy, and then he starts to mature as everything moves forward. Now, when it comes to the old tabletop RPG, the Dot Hack official
Mhm.
RPG,
Yeah.
what was your first contact with it?
I think I'm trying to think back. It was actually Erroneous's video at Dothack Network. He had a short going over, I think, a magazine. I think he talked briefly about a tabletop RPG. If not, like one of his comments talked about the tabletop RPG and haven't been a dungeon master for a while now. Oh yeah, I want to check this out. And Infinite Generation is more of like a one-shot tabletop game where you just get a bunch of friends together and just kind of like roll dice. You roll the die. Hey, you activate the skill. Great. It's a simple RPG, not meant to be played out like a long-term campaign. And like I saw a lot of potential in that. I was surprised that yeah, probably at the time, tabletop games weren't as mainstream, if I can say that, mostly because like I think tabletop games now are more popular now, like especially post COVID versus like how they were before. Like not many people knew about like Dungeons and Dragons or anything like that. So I think like there's a lot of potential for CyberConnect's Infinite Generation to be a much better system, a much updated system, especially now where it seems like everyone's creating a tabletop game. Even Final Fantasy 14 is getting their own tabletop RPG. I heard somewhere. So why not just capitalize on it?
Mm-hmm. I think that is quite typical of Japanese tabletop RPGs, at
Mm-hmm.
least the earlier ones, that people were not really accustomed to long campaigns. So they wanted simple, short experiences. You can see this in games such as Double Cross. Are you familiar with the tabletop RPG Double Cross?
I think I might have heard of it in passing, but never actually played it myself.
This slightly connects with Dot Hack because it's basically a superhero game. You can
Mm-hmm.
consider it many other things theme wise, but you have people that have all sorts of weird powers like manipulating their blood, transforming their bodies. But there is actually an expansion that allows you to play a Sword Art Online sort of situation, but there are also many elements taken
Mm-hmm.
from Dot Hack. And that game is also very simple, usually for a single session, and that's it, perhaps even just a short campaign. But that could explain why the official Dot Hack game was designed like that.
Yeah.
But for those of you watching, perhaps you will be surprised to know that Claude has actually been working on his own Dot Hack tabletop RPG. Can you tell us about that one?
Yes, Dothack Infinite Generation Revision 2 is an extension upon the original system from CyberConnect back in 2003. It takes the classes, races, themes of Dothack GU and turns it into a fully fledged tabletop RPG. Kind of akin to Dungeons and Dragons. If I had to properly explain it, 70 to 80% of it is like from hand. I'm able to just create it myself and just kind of like tweak it, while others are taken from other elements like Dungeons and Dragons. I've taken elements a little bit from Monster Hunter, from Final Fantasy IV, like all these different ideas and concepts, and turned it into a fully playable TTRPG where like you can go on campaigns throughout the world. There's mechanics for not just finding and whatnot, but there's actually a morale system where you can develop like relationships with other players and get permanent buffs. There is things like collecting lucky animals and then getting rewards through that, and like just so many different systems that I've worked on over the last year. And I wanted to feel like you're making a character in the world. And I think one of the biggest inspirations was Dothack Fragment, which is a game also released by CyberConnect 2 in 2005. It was more like a MMO version of Dothack IMOC, where you create your own character, you go through the world, all the areas that you would normally do, but as your character, not as Kite, but as your own created character and class.
Is your game set in a particular section of the timeline?
I would say like I take the classes from GU, so the time framing will probably be between 2015 and 2020. But with this, you can essentially go like any time era. Like you can say that, hey, the World War II is still around in 2023 by creating your own mythos, or even be like, hey, the beta version of the World War II in 2013. Like it's very flexible in its setting. While I did take like a lot of the lore and stuff directly from IMOC, or not IMOC, GU, you can edit it to how you like whatever themes, whatever setting that you want to go off of, you can go ahead and do so with this system.
And what is the core mechanic? How do you carry out checks and such?
There's two. Sorry, my brain kind of shut off for a minute there. So much like in the original Infinite Generation, I'm using what I'm calling the dynamic die system, where you're only using one die for the most part outside of skills and spells. You roll it, whatever number you rolled on, that's the skill or spell you activate. And for same thing with checks. You use that die for every check. The thing about this is, as you level up, the size of your die increases. So you start as a D6, eventually go into a D8, a D10, and ending off at a D12. And by leveling up with your die, you get to add more skills and spells onto the die for combat. You have a much higher chance of succeeding in those social checks. And you have pretty much a wide range of what you can do in terms of pretty much everything.
And was it challenging to adapt the classes to your tabletop RPG, the Dothack classes?
I would say yes and no, because in order for me to actually learn how to, because I've never made a tabletop RPG before. So I first went to Dothack GU. I took pictures of all the shops, like what they had, what the bonuses were, and I had that as a template. And then, like, same with, Infinite Generation, I took that as a template, and I just started writing. It started with just 5 pages to 10 to 50. And I think I'm now, between the 3 documents I have about 180 pages worth of material.
And have you been playtesting it a lot?
I have, yes. I have one group that I'm playtesting with. There's another group run by someone in my server. His name is Bigger Matthew. He's been running the game as well. And as far as that goes, not many people have picked this up yet. Like a couple people, if they did, I don't know about it. But from everything that I've heard, yeah, the game is great. There's a lot that needs to be worked on. I'm still not finished with it. I'm on revision 44 of the main character document, and it's like, yeah, there's still a lot to edit, and there's still a lot to balance, but I believe that I've created a system where it's like there's so much customization, there's so much personalization, and While can be a little confusing at times, especially if you're starting at higher tier play, like like I'm making sure that every level has meaning. Like first level, you start off with your role, which is essentially like who you are as a person in the world, as well as your subclass. Immediately, level 1 subclass, you get your feature right then and there.
And is there a strong presence of things related to Morgana, Kuvia, and all of that?
Well, I do have some mechanics that I'm working on, like optional mechanics that for situations where if you want to have your players be infected with Ida, or perhaps have enemies that are related to Morgana. But as of right now, it is just the enemies of GU, like the mechanics and everything. I've also added 2 new classes to the system. They're called the Chakra Machinist, which they're essentially the artificers of this universe, and they're the ones that are responsible for creating the steampunk technology that you see in GU, and the Mirror Mimic. They are the wandering adventurers, literally stealing the spells and skills from other monsters and then selling them. And I keep saying Imok and Makanu for adventurers to buy in the shops.
And did you do some external research, as in looking for other tabletop RPGs that kind of represented that sort of, oh, we are trapped in the video game world sort of things?
Not in terms of like other MMO TTRPGs. I've mostly used my experience from D&D 5e, but I've also looked at Infinite Generation, of course. And I think I've took a little bit from 3.5 D&D. I haven't really explored other tabletop RPGs, like other than those, because I don't have experience in those, you know?
Mm-hmm. It still surprises me how many developers never took that concept of the dot hack concept and went with it, because by comparison, there aren't too many RPGs like that. We have, like I mentioned, the expansion for Double Cross.
Mm-hmm.
There is also a game called Infinity's Edge. I don't know if you heard about it.
So that name rings a bell. I just can't remember where I might have heard
It's
that.
a tabletop RPG that also takes some elements from that. You are also trapped within the game world, but it
Mm-hmm.
takes great inspiration from, for example, World of Warcraft. So there are many World of Warcraft elements from that. There is also one called Vital Hearts. Have you heard of that one? No?
No, I don't think I've heard of that one.
I think that one could be considered the closest one to Dot Hack, because you
Mm-hmm.
actually play in the game, but also outside. That's a good question. Does your game include like a mode where you play as the character controlling the video game character?
My party has asked me about mechanics for that, and I'm trying to think of a way to do so. I'm mostly just focusing on like the in-game stuff right now, but in terms of offline mechanics, I think something simple like for like offline, like doesn't have to be too expensive, like much like the main game, would go a long way, because in real life, yeah, we could do a lot of great things, but a lot of us can't really do a lot of great things. We do have our limitations. So having like a simple mechanic, simple like maybe set HP or set abilities. Like I still incorporate the social checks if I do have offline in-game events. I usually just hey, you got your social checks still. You know, those still apply. You know, regardless of what character you made. So aside from that, I don't really have anything too much on offline right now, but it is on the table. My players have emphasized that they do want to see more of the offline stuff.
I think it's a good idea to keep things simple when it comes to the offline aspect, because in the dot hack universe, I think the most that we have seen concerning that is in the OVA's liminality. And you
Mm-hmm.
can see the difference. It's basically normal people using the best that they can, their abilities to solve situations, even though they do play a crucial part. Without avoiding spoilers, they play
Yeah.
a crucial part at a certain moment,
Mhm.
but yes, you don't really see them accomplishing the incredible things, of course, that they accomplish within the
Yeah.
game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I am doing my own playtest material for this, I've also incorporated some of my dot hack videos into the question. Like my latest video is involving lore in the dot hack universe and in the concept of what happened in their last offline session. Basically, they ended up going into this rundown building owned by CC Corp, burned down to the ground. They ended up finding like this fragmented data, which turned out to be the documents of a character known as Jotaro Omagi. If you want to find out what he says, then they had to wait for the encryption to come by, and meaning I actually have to make the video. And it's kind of like a good thing that I'm doing that, because not only my players get to enjoy that, but I also have in Dothack content for my channel. So kind of like a win-win.
I've actually been sharing your video where the more recent video where you tell something like, what's the title? Dothack is awesome or something. One
Yeah,
of the more
why
recent
Dothack
ones.
is awesome. Yeah.
That one. Yeah, I've been sharing that
Yeah.
one. Now, what do you think caused Dothack to, if not die out, at least like the flame got a bit smothered throughout the years?
I would say there are two major things that I would say are the reason why Dothack is not popular, at least not anymore. One is the timing. Like, if Dothack, the series, came out maybe about 5 years later, it would be more relevant, because by 2005, 2006, you're getting games like World of Warcraft. I think EverQuest was already out for a few years at that time, where MMOs just started to pop up into popularity. And like, if Dothack were there, then yeah, that would capitalize on that new upcoming trend and such. Where I think they were just too early. It's still a great series, don't get me wrong, but it just kind of missed the mark on that. The other thing, in my opinion, like, this is just more speculation on my end, is that Bandai Namco is terrible at marketing Dothack in general. I remember like trying to research Dothack Roots, which is another anime, and only to find out that like a lot of the times they only show Dothack Roots during the late hours. Like I don't know if it's Toonami, but one of those late night cartoon shows where everyone's asleep around that time, so no one actually watched. And plus that show was terrible anyway. That didn't help. But it's just kind of like, even with marketing the newest Dothack game, so to speak, Dothack Last Recode, the remaster for GU, they didn't market it all too well. Like, I think they had one YouTube, I could be wrong, but I remember seeing I can't remember whose video it was. They were saying that Bandai Namco released the announcement trailer for Dothack Last Recode about a few days after it already came out. So there's just something about Dothack that Bandai keeps dropping the ball on. I think that those are the two biggest things as to why the series is not as popular, because not many people know about it. And if they do, they just remember mostly Amok. Like, not a lot of people remember GU.
Were you ever part of that like movement that Bandai Namco did several years back, that they had websites, like sort of like, how would you say, they were like role-playing websites. They had one for Soul Calibur, they had one for Dothack, and you went into the website and you got your character name and you're, oh, welcome to the world. Now we are threatened by Morgana. You need to accomplish these missions. Did you ever experience that?
Nah, I think that was I think that, I don't know if they're still doing it, but that might be after I joined the community, and even then I didn't know about it until like perhaps maybe a year into getting in with the community, like seeing like who these people are, like all the amazing artists and whatnot. So no, I do not know anything about that. That's actually interesting.
That was pretty cool. And yes, you're definitely correct in that Bandai Namco was terrible at promoting Dothack. I actually wouldn't have gotten into Hack at all, Dothack at all, if it weren't for, I saw it one in a magazine, one of those old video game magazines. I don't even remember which one. And it said something like, oh, Dothack, the game that allows you to play an MMO but offline. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Who knows what that is? And I just went to GameStop many years back, and I saw it in a garbage bin, the bargain bin, just tossed in there the first game of the quadrilogy. And Dothack, well, it's pretty cheap. I'll get it. And whoa, and it changed my view on things. But after that, when the first version of GU came out, they started to promote these websites. I don't even know how I got I think it was an email from Namco. And they told you, oh, you want to go into the world. And so you signed in. Like I said, it was like you were in a part of the world, and they gave you missions like, in order to level up, you need to promote the website to these many people. And you went, oh, do you know about Hack and Dothack? And
oh yeah, didn't they? I think they did some kind of promotion around that time where, I don't know if you got your name within Volume 1. I remember they were doing something like that. Like when It's just like when I first heard about it, oh yeah, someone like entered some kind of contest. I don't know if it's true. I think it's interesting if they actually did win and do that, because imagine that one lucky fan, they're actually in the world, you know?
They actually had contests with the creator. He was like, "Oh yes, show him create an art piece displaying your favorite Dothack character,
Mm.
and he's going to judge them, and you start to win prizes." So I think they should have gone a bit more towards that route, but they just stopped for no reason, and it was
Yeah.
a really great way of involving everyone. I actually had a lot of fun doing that. Now, when it comes to the influence of Dothack upon other media, have you noticed something in anime, manga, anything that you thought, oh, they took that from Dothack? I am certain of it.
I would say the one anime that probably takes a lot from Dothack is Sword Art Online. Now, I'm going to be forward for any Sword Art fans out on your channel. I'm sorry, I don't like this series. I have several issues with it, mostly because it just didn't grasp my attention as well as Dothack did. Not to mention, I think Sword Art Online did take some story elements from Dothack, but they didn't do a good job of it. Now, the series probably could be both good. I've only watched like the first couple of seasons. I just couldn't get into it. It just didn't pull me into that. And so, like, maybe it's better now, maybe it's not. But yeah, Sword Art Online is definitely the big thing in terms of like inspiration from Dothack. I mean, a lot of people compare Dothack and Sword Art like constantly, and it's sad to see that both sides are kind of like at heads with each other. It's like maybe I'll go back and watch Sword Art Online again just to like refresh my memory of it. But it's just kind of like, yeah, that's probably the biggest anime that has been influenced by Dothack, I feel, and they got successful from it. I don't know how, but I guess Dothack sort of lives on with Sword Art.
I think that's a significant topic because many of the things that people like and dislike from Sword Art Online, they also connect in some way or another with the Dothack series.
Yeah.
And don't worry, I think that, well, there are always going to be immature people, but those of us with critical thinking, we can see the flaws and the good things about anything. There are things that you can point out are terrible in Dothack. There are things that I can point out terrible in Sword Art Online, also great things. But what would you say was the thing that you felt missing in Sword Art Online that Dothack had, or has rather?
Well, I think the biggest thing was with its characters. Like, there are characters within Sword Art. I'm not going to go into like the actual story because one, I don't remember too much, and two, potential spoilers. But I know that some characters were only introduced just to die, as if it were a Game of Thrones story, and it's just kind of like, not to mention, like, when they did have mature themes, it was handled in the worst way. I felt like it got uncomfortable for me. I think that was the big thing for me. It just felt uncomfortable to watch, so I didn't continue watching it afterwards.
Yes, when it comes to my perception of Sword Art Online, I actually enjoyed it at first.
Mhm.
But what I felt is that they took the concept of centering everything or focusing everything on this main character and they took it to the extreme. So what I consider to be like a flaw of GU from my perspective, I thought, wow, this Kirito guy, they put so much weight into him. I think the other seasons would have been better if they introduced some other main character because it was so unlikely that so many things would happen to the same person. So I think that's one of the merits of Dothack, that you have Kite, but then you have Hassel.
Yeah.
And later on, you have other characters. So it's just too extremely over the top for the sort of reality that they wanted to represent outside of the game world. That as a person like that, within that context, is able to be in the middle of everything all the time.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think it's like the idea that if you reintroduced a character from a previous version of a series, then the players are not going to, or not the players, the viewers are not going to want to know about the other new characters. They just want to focus on the character that they got attached to. So, which is why they went with Aseo rather than Kai, because while he is technically a returning character, not many people are going to know it is that returning character. And so you get invested in this new version of the character rather than like imagine what would happen if GU was focused on Kite again and he came back. I don't think there would be much interest in the other new characters because people, oh man, this is a grown up Kite. I can't wait to see what he's all about. But Haseo, who's Haseo? You know?
I would have loved it if they brought they put like a stronger focus on Kite as a grown up in the third game. What was the name? Well, the character Tokyo was the main character.
Oh, Dothack Link. I did play that, and it's okay.
A lot of people hate that.
It's okay.
Yeah, and I thought if only Kite had been the main character, because to this day I haven't heard from anyone that I connected with Tokyo so much. They didn't like the main character, or have you spoken to someone that actually liked the new character for?
I don't think I've ever spoken to anyone that actually likes Tokyo. There might be some Tokyo stands out there. Hey, I will say this right now. If you like Tokyo, great. That's awesome. Be attached to that character. Tell us what you like about Tokyo. And my perception, though, about Tokyo is that he's kind of like Goku if you took away the strength and the actual combat knowledge. And, you know, the archetype that I'm talking about, like the dumb main character that is just happy to help, you know, just that archetype. That's pretty much Tokyo. From what I've seen, I only had like partial translation, so I just might not be understanding the story properly, but it didn't seem like he was growing as a character. In fact, one of the side characters of that, I forgot her name, but there's a female like main character as well that helps Tokyo throughout. I think she has more development than Tokyo. That says a lot about the main character if your side character has more development, you know?
Yes, there have been videos criticizing all of that. Some even point out that perhaps Bandai Namco were focusing too much on trying to appeal to a larger audience with a generic shonen character. And they sacrificed a lot of what could have made the character a bit more unique. Because in the case of Kaito and Haseo, there are so many fans out there for either Kaito or Haseo, and they love that. Oh, well, you know, Kaito is so courageous and admirable. Haseo, he made this transformation and he became a better person. So Tokyo was lacking something like that.
Yeah, I also think that it felt like when I was playing through Link, it felt like there were just too many chefs in the kitchen. Like too many writers have too many ideas, and they didn't really blend well with the previous material. Because I see Link as an anthology title. It recaps most, if not all, of the material, not just the games and shows, but just kind of like the side material as well. But they do so in a more abridged way. And I'm not saying like the haha funny abridged. I'm saying like very short, brief glimpses into characters, events, and they even change some plot lines that doesn't make sense in like Link, or even like the stories that they're retelling. And it feels more like, if I had to describe what Tokyo is like Sora from Kingdom Hearts. He goes through all the Disney worlds, you go through the Disney story, and all that happens and he's just there. That's pretty much Tokyo.
I forgot to ask this when we were talking about your Dothack TTRPG. Are you going to make it available like in those places like itch.io or the like?
What do you mean by available? Like available?
Like people can just go there and download it for free, or?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I'm posting constant updates, and not just in my Discord server, but in Ronius's Dothack Network server. It is free to try out right now. I can't charge any money because it is Bandai's property, but you can test it out right now. I would love for you guys to try it out. It gives me more feedback, it gives me what I need to work on. And like there's 3 documents. Like at some point I'll probably have all 3 documents together, but you'll see all the patch notes that I have. Like I make sure to have clarity in terms of my system and like what has been changed with that. So yeah, you guys can try it out for yourselves right now. I think that's the biggest strength of my system. I have it out there for players to try out, and whatever they send me, I make changes with that.
I'm going to be putting all of the Discord links for that. When we finish this interview, please send me your Discord so that I can.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
There. Now, when it comes to other media such as light novels or manga, have you read any of those?
I'm currently in the middle of reading some of the side material for the lore videos that I'm making, starting with, let's see, what's it called? It's like one of the earliest, like in the chronology story. I wish I remember the name of it right now, but for what I'm trying to do in my videos, it's better to research like those other materials. I tried looking for also Legend of the Twilight Bracelet, but the places where I normally go to watch it don't have it available anymore for some reason. So it's very hard for me to, outside of buying it flat out, to actually go and watch it online. So that's going to be the biggest struggle. Like a lot of places are not supporting the Dothack shows anymore for me to actually go and not just grab B-roll footage, but also just for me to actually probably watch those material that a lot of people, again, don't know about.
I recommend the 4 books. I think the series is called Another Birth. It's basically.
Yes, that's what it was
Yeah.
called.
Okay. Yeah, because
I'm pretty sure that's what it was called.
for those of you that do not know, those books, they pretty much present the story from the original quadrilogy, but from the perspective of Black Rose.
Yeah, I like getting different perspectives about the characters, especially like in terms of like their own personal story, and it's just like it's interesting. I know I keep saying it, but it gives you a new perspective into the thing that you played as Kai. Like, what did Black Rose feel? Like, what is her thoughts on the scenarios and everything? And I'm interested to see how what was it called another but you know,
The title, Another
yeah,
Birth.
the title, yeah, Another Birth. Yeah,
Another Birth.
thank you. I'm interested to see how it actually plays out, like how like it ends, how it goes through, and yes.
There are some funny things in that series, because perhaps you noticed that there was a minor difference when it comes to when Kite and Black Rose met. Did you spot that one?
Yeah, I think so. It was very minor, but I could definitely tell that some things were changed. Like I don't know which came first, though. That's the thing. I want to assume that the games came out and then the book, and like changes. You updating the story essentially.
Yes, the origin of all was the quadrilogy, but I think it presents a very interesting situation of he said, she said, because now people do not know which one is the canon encounter, or many things, subtle things that happen throughout the story. Should we believe Kite or Black Rose when it comes to who is telling the video game or the?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like they're both how do I explain it? Like I see the Black Rose story as kind of like an unreliable narrator from her side of view. I mean, you could also say that about Kite's point of view. So I would say like both are pretty important to get an idea of the character's mindset, whether it's canon or not. Me personally, I think that IMOC might be the more canon of the interpretation because that is the most widely available, so to speak. I say widely available. There's not a remake. There should be though, but I would say the IMOC games are the more canon one, and the supplementary material are just more like an enhancement to the story.
I think it's also because in the games, nobody's telling you what is going on. You are watching it with your own eyes. You are seeing the events unfold. And in the case of Another Birth, it's kind of like Black Rose telling you her side of the story. So it's more objective on the side of the games.
Yeah, I still think it's important to read through it though, like just to get like that different mindset, like different scenario, different what have you, because you might actually find something there that could explain other events within the games. And it's just kind of like the spider web going on here.
And now, do you have any current Dothack projects to come in your channel?
Outside of IGR2, I am currently working on the lore videos, and later on, I'm going to try to actually have a fully voiced English dub of Dothack Gift, which I believe it was like this half-hour OVA, very cartoonish, like exaggerated,
I remember the little.
Yeah, like some people in the community would tell me that there wasn't an English dubbing of the series, so I'm going to try to make it happen. Don't know how long it's going to take because at least from what I'm looking at the different characters, there's about 20 different characters, and so far I only have maybe about 10 people to voice. So I'll be putting out a casting call for that, hopefully within the next month, and that's going to be the big project. The biggest issue with that though is Bandai Namco. like technically I won't be changing too much. I'll be adding, music, like different music, different sound effects. So that way, of course, no copyright claim. But if Bandai sees this as, oh, wait a minute, you're just stealing my material, I'm going to take that down. Well, I don't think it's going to happen. That I always have to keep that in mind. So if I need to change some things in the script to not just make it better in terms of more accurate, in fact, I'll probably ask around to see if there's any translators to see if the script of Gift is like accurate to the subtitles that I've been reading, like just have that consistency. And because I want to make sure that people experience it as it were and not change it too much, not just for the sake of, a video, but just like, this is something that needs to be out there because Gift was only released in Japan, I believe. So again, that's another material that not many of the fan base know of,
I think it was available in the. I don't know if it was a box set, but the complete collection of Dothack Root. I think I saw it there.
Oh, Roots? Oh,
I think so. Was Roots or Sign? No, it was Sign. Definitely.
Yeah, I was about to say,
it was Sign.
Yeah. I mean, it probably was released in an English version, and I just don't know about it. But judging from what I've talked about with some people, it seems like it's only available in Japan with English subtitles. So
that one.
Yeah. So this is going to be the bigger project of the two. Just having actual voiced, like English casting for this.
Would you like to share something else before we wrap this up?
I would say, like, at least to conclude my talks on Dothack, is that this is a very underrated series. If you want to experience, like, some of the best character development, some of the, like, best stories around, go check them out. Keep in mind that with IMOC, it's very early 2000s, like, voice acting, like, it's Saturday cartoon, kind of like voice acting. You are going to enjoy it. Whereas GU, you're probably going to get frustrated with some of the mechanics due to the age of how it is also a PS2 game. But like, if you could get through like those minor bumps in the road, I think you really have something special here. And especially since GU is, again, all the time going on sale for $5. I emphasize that in my video. $5 for a 60-hour experience plus, you can't go wrong with that. That's a good couple of days. 60 hours is more than a couple of days, but details. But yeah, check out Dothack GU. Like, spread the word about Dothack. Oh god, I sound like a preacher now. Just have fun. Like, enjoy the series. And if you want to have your own character within the world, try Infinite Generation Revision 2. I'm going to try my best to make sure your character gets their own story in the world.
I was also thinking that perhaps I missed it, but an actual play of your game in your channel would be great.
What was that?
An actual play of your Dothack tabletop RPG on your channel would have been great.
Yeah, it's actually funny that you're saying that because I'm actually going to do a test live stream of IGR2 mid-tier play. My players are going to be going through the Abyss quest, aka fighting against the one sin using level 6 characters, which is that like just on the borderline of like top tier play. So it's going to be on my Twitch channel, KeyToDarkness. I think I said 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on, I think it was Friday, like this coming Friday. Yeah, this Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, we're going to be play testing it. My players are excited. I'm excited. Don't know how it's going to be. I'm kind of nervous about it, but it's going to be enjoyable. I'm going to try to make this enjoyable for not just myself and my players, but for anyone who wants to jump in and say hello.
Well, thanks again for being here, Claude. This has been a most enlightening conversation about Dothack.
Well, thank you very much for having me here today.
Well, for everyone watching at home, thank you for watching this interview. I'm going to be putting all of those links in the description. And remember, everyone, master roleplay and you will master the game.
Stay classy, stay beautiful, but most importantly, have yourself a fantastic night.
I'm going to stop recording in 10 seconds.
All right.